Hey, what's up everybody? Welcome to the channel and today's video. Today I'm going to be showing you what I did with the original RC4WD Gelande II D90 front bumper, and that is adding some LED lights into the front. This also gives the illusion of looking like fog lights, and I thought I'd share the process with you because it was a really fun project for me and I'm very excited to show you the results and what happened along the way. So sit back and enjoy the video. So I'm just going to show you what the front bumper lights look like when they're turned on. That will save you waiting too long. At the moment I have these lights all hooked up to my benchtop power supply unit, which is going to feed it 6 volts, which is what they're going to be fed from the light control box in the form of an SYRC light control box. That is still in the mail on the way. But without further ado, let's have a look at what the lights look like when they're turned on. There we go, and as I said, these are 6 volts. They are in person super bright. You can't look directly at them. And I'm pretty sure that this isn't very good for my camera. And just for clarity, the camera really throws off the tint. The tint in person is a neutral warm tint. We have a very short type 5mm LED on here, and in the center of these two is a 3mm very warm, probably 2500 Kelvin LED. And the same on the other side. So they look quite uniform, so it kind of goes neutral, warm, neutral, warm, and the same on each side here. I'm going to try and focus the camera a little bit more, bring the brightness down so you get a slightly better idea of what the lights look like. It's still not doing it any justice. It just looks very yellow on camera, but it does look quite neutral in person. It's a very pleasing tint. It's almost like sunlight during sunset. And now I'm going to show you what the building process was like. So if you're building an RC4WD Gelande II D90, you will have one of these bumpers in the kit. Now I have a couple of other bumpers inside my spares box, but each bumper that I have is a winch build type, so it needs a winch to go on it. And at the moment, I'm not quite willing to spend extra money to get a winch again, so I decided to use the original bumper, the one that came with the kit, and modify it slightly to accommodate some lights. That way I get the added benefits of extra lighting when I'm playing at night, and I don't have to buy a winch too. So the first thing I did was I measured up a small template of paper. All I did was measure one up that goes around here, kind of like this, the same size, drawing a center line that goes all the way across there, and then measure and mark up some reference dots of where I wanted to drill the holes. This will be a 5mm LED, this will be a 5mm LED, and there will be a 3mm LED in the center. Once those holes and reference points were correctly drilled into the bumper, I then increased the size of the drill bit to make an even bigger hole, exactly where it needed to be, focusing very closely on where I need to pressure this to make sure everything stays centered. Once the holes were done, in the largest hand drill bit size I used, I then had to get an electrical drill and use a 4.5mm drill bit to fully drill out the holes on the 5mm ones. For the 3mm LED, all I did was use a 3mm drill bit. Once the 4.5mm holes were drilled, I then used a countersink bit and very lightly countersunk the holes in the front. And what that does is that gives this silver ring around the LED and adds, in my opinion, a little bit of depth and a little bit of dimension to the LED, making it look like it has a recessed ring around it to give off the illusion of a fog light. Once that was done and all the mounting holes were correct to size, I decided to then fit the LEDs. Now if you're wondering what LED I used the 5mm straw hat type, and there's 2 main reasons for that. I couldn't use an actual 5mm LED because it was just too tall. If you mount it in here, it would stick out the rear, and that means I couldn't waterproof it the way I wanted to or pot them into the actual bumper. Using a straw hat LED eliminates that problem because it's so short. It also has the added benefit of having a very wide viewing angle. That means the light, instead of coming out into the front, it will actually spread the light in a fan type shape, thus making the light very visible from all angles, as long as you are in front or beside the vehicle. This will also illuminate a wider area on the ground. It also has a lot of give, so if these LEDs are not mounted absolutely straight because there's no mounting system, it could be mounted to the side slightly, to the top slightly, but the light you will get will be pretty much the same in all directions, which is very beneficial to what I'm doing. So all I did was press each LED up to the hole there, and because the hole was 4.5 millimeters, it wouldn't come all the way through and slip through, and that would give off this dome look on the front. It's actually recessed now inside the bumper with a small curvature due to the lens. Each LED then has its own resistor inside here, so one to there, one to there, one to there, thus making the voltage and amperage correct for each LED running at 18 milliamps at 6 volts. Now a quick tip, if you are doing LEDs and you're mounting these lights, I don't think anyone's going to actually do this, but this is a quick tip just if you want to mount any type of LED to your RC system, don't have your LEDs mounted in series. That means, say, this is incorrect calculations, but let's say this is a 3 volt LED and this is a 3 volt LED, and you mount them in series, which means they're going to take 6 volts, and if you're feeding it 6 volts, there's not really any true reason to use a resistor. The problem with that is if you steer or use any other electronics on your RC vehicle and it drops the voltage slightly, the lights are going to flash, because their running voltage is so close to the voltage provided, and I'm not using correct terminology here, but anything else that drops the voltage slightly is going to make them flicker. So even though I'm feeding each LED 6 volts, I decided to wire everything in parallel, so each LED gets its own resistor to control the 6 volts and the amperage to whatever's required for the brightness that I desire. Hope that makes sense. If it doesn't, don't worry. You don't really need to know this. Once each LED was pressed up to the mounting holes, all I did was added a dab of CA glue to the side, and that held it in place quite tightly, ready to be potted. I had all the wires routed this way, coming inside here, looped back round, up here as you can see, and here is where it connects to the other side here, which is the same thing coming all the way up here, all the way around here, and connecting there. And the reason there's a gap here is because I don't want it touching the servo, and I don't want it touching the motor just in case that gets hot. The reason it clears this area is because once the hard body comes on top, this is where it rests, and it needs all this area here to be clear, and you don't want any of your wires to be clamped by the hard body. Once that was done, I then decided to pot the bumper completely, and for that I used a hot glue. Now this is the really fun part, because hot glues come in many different colors now. You can get the usual white, creamy, see-through, and they also come in really exciting colors now, like yellow, fluorescent yellow, orange, and things like that. You can even get blue or green. I decided to go with black, and there's a reason for that. Now, if I wanted to, I could have used a silver hot glue, and what that would do is this. It would make each LED and light pod look like there's a silver reflector on the back, and what that would do is replicate what bumper fog lights look like because they have a reflector on the back. I decided to do something a little bit different and use black hot glue because in my opinion it gives it this deep set dark look offset by color by the silver ring. You'll also be able to see very clearly the diode in there, which I think gives it quite a unique look. It was part experimentation and part theory, and this was the final outcome. It's something that I'm really happy with because I wanted something looking a bit different and a bit special, and in my opinion it has achieved this. This has also been a really fun project for me because there are so many different skills that I improved upon. Things like soldering, potting, drilling, measuring, designing, and testing. It was a fantastic and really fun project for me. So that's the final result. If you're wondering how I got the hot glue to be potted and straight like that, all I did when the bumper was off obviously, and this was on the workbench, was I squirted the hot glue in there, which made it obviously very lumpy and stick out and bulbous in some areas and recessed in others, and then all I did was use a small blue flame tool and very quickly glide over the hot glue, and what that would do was melt it and have it set in the way it has been set in now, and that's absolutely solid and waterproof now. Also, the bumper is shockproof now. With the LEDs potted in there, all the wiring won't be vibrating, won't be moving at all, and it's very solid. One thing I will be cautious of though is the lens stick out just a tiny bit. You can see the bump there, I can feel it. That's the front of the lens. That means if I smash this into any furniture or rocks, the LED is going to take the brunt of the shock. Okay, so you could maybe put a bumper stop there, or a bumper stop on the front, or even a number plate. That will probably stick out enough to protect the LEDs. But if anything takes impact on those areas, do bear in mind, not that anyone's going to do this, but if you do, that should be protected with something. Okay, it's going to be fun to try and find something to protect it, maybe even a guard or something. Oops, I forgot to show you the rest of the wiring. So the wires are coming underneath this bunch of wires here. It's all coming to the rear at the moment because everything hasn't arrived yet. This comes to the back. Now this is going to be plugged into an expansion port on the SYRC light control box, as I said, and that's going to go inside the receiver box back here. And I can't wait to do that. But I thought I'd show you this while it's in the making, and it's pretty much finished anyway on the front. So that was it. Maybe I can give you a quick demo of what it looks like with the body on. This isn't the body I'm going to be using on this kit. I'm actually doing a new body at the moment, but the parts for it haven't arrived yet, and while I'm waiting for everything, thought I'd experiment. Thought I'd show you with this body anyway. So here we go. I'm going to turn it on, and that's what it looks like. Very happy with the result, the way it looks. So there we go, guys. That was the bumper lights that I was going to show you, and I hope this kind of helped someone out there, or just shared some fun activities of things I did in the past weeks, and to show you what's going on behind the scenes. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed the video. See ya!